Hi, Mike.
Hi there. How am I coming through?
Just fine. I can see you. I can hear you.
Fantastic. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, good,
How's your dad?
good. He's doing well, actually.
Good.
High spirits and getting around. So
That's what you can ask for, I guess.
yeah. You bike in this morning?
I did not. It's too early. No, it's still a little too hot in the air quality. So I biked on Monday, but not since. I took a week off. I'm not sleeping as well. I should get back to it, I guess, but
Anything you want me to open on the browser here?
well, I had just done Black's dictionary definitions of Champerty, or however you pronounce it.
Oh,
and
did you use Black
Barratry.
for that?
I did, because I was trying to figure out what it was. I hadn't come across it before, and then of course I found out it was all over. I thought, this particular patron was asking for it in Texas, and I was like, that must be a Texas thing. Well, it's not. As you pointed out, there's a key numbered topic with that name, and then Barratry. The definitions for Barratry were all over the map.
There's a key number for Barratry as well.
There is?
Yeah, key number, not a Champerty's got a topic number.
Topic, yeah.
Barratry's got a key number under the insurance topic as a defense to, or as an exclusion for coverage when the well, I'll let you. I'm not sure I fully understand. It has to do with the boat operator.
Fully understand either. Yeah, when you bring up that definition for Barratry, it would seem to mean all kinds of things that I think if I was a linguist, I would understand how they could possibly be related. But the first definition is similar to Champerty. It has to do with fee arrangements. But then it goes on to, okay, so it's soliciting potential legal clients. And then the second definition, also related, bringing of a lawsuit without permission of the named plaintiff. And third, it's like sinking a ship with criminal intent. And
okay, yeah. I was going to say my email to you. Yeah, here it is, maritime law.
Yeah,
my email to you must have been like, "What are you talking about?" Because in the case law, when I found it, it had to do with this within a boat operator,
right.
And the terminology I'm forgetting. We'll take a look at that when we get to that.
Right. And then it's buying or selling ecclesiastical or governmental positions. And then it's the crime committed by a judge who accepts a bribe. But they talk about Champerty being Barratry. It's just words I don't know. Also, I don't know how to pronounce either of them. I should have looked. Barratry or Bear. Okay.
Barratry, yeah. How do you pronounce it, actually? Barratry, or Bear.
Or Bear.
Either one. Yeah, I see.
There you go.
Interesting.
You're always right. Yeah. So that was fun. I guess there's no real research insight into it. It's just I can do this for decades and still come across terms that sound made up. But we both went kind of historical then, because look, this is a 15th century term, and you were doing some historical work too.
I am going to start recording. Yeah, I'm hoping you can help me with the items on the National Archives UK website.
Oh, sure.
Hey, bring some of your librarian chops to
Yeah, you'll have to tell me why on earth you're going back that far.
yeah. I'm not really, then that's why I
Yeah.
need your help. All right. Time we out here. Technically, everything's happening. That's unusual. That never happens.
I know, look at that. You're just all ahead of the game.
All right. New Bear Tree open here. Bear Tree. Sounds more, I don't know, medical.
Yeah, doesn't it? Some kind of procedure.
All right, we can get rolling. Let's get rolling. And if anybody else is joining us, we'll just welcome them when they arrive.
Sounds good.
And we are live to YouTube, so we are good to go. Welcome, Karen, back for another episode of the Gray Paper Pod. I'm Mike Carlson. I'm the researcher at Gray Paper Legal.
And I'm Karen Westwood, the director of the Hennepin County Law Library.
Karen, thanks for jetting in this morning. What was your most interesting legal research question of the week?
Well, here I won't bury the lead. I got some terms to research that I was not familiar with. And you know how it goes, Mike. After you researched for years, you feel like, something will at least sound familiar to you. And I was asked about a couple of terms. This first one you have up in Black's Law Dictionary, barratry, and also champerty or champerty. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Having to do basically with fee arrangements, attorney fee arrangements, and states treat these concepts apparently differently. After I did some searching around, I assumed, because I hadn't heard of it, that it must not exist in Minnesota, because I have my whole law library career here in Minnesota. But I was wrong. It does exist as a concept in Minnesota, although it's been supplanted to a great degree by the rules of professional responsibility, because it has to do with how lawsuits are financed, basically, an agreement to divide litigation proceeds.
Yeah, the only reason I've never heard of barratry ever. That was, and I still don't know what it is. Champerty, interestingly, I've researched before, because I would have never heard of it unless somebody hadn't asked me to go find it. But more than once, I've had to search champerty. I think I was telling you, it's not cross-referenced in the dictionary here, but their topic 74 in the key number system is for champerty. So it's not a key number; it's a topic number. There's an entire topic out of the 400 topic numbers available in the key number system. Champerty's got one. And so I've seen it before. I think at the Bar Association, we also did some programming on litigation finance, and those folks were talking about champertus arrangements and how that is no longer a thing. So I've bumped up against champerty in the past. Barratry, never heard of it. As funny as when we were right before our record here, we were talking about what it means, and I didn't even think to go to Black's Dictionary. I almost never do. It's interesting that
yeah,
that's a good reminder. Because what I was finding with just the words and phrases search in the case law, there is a key number for barratry, maybe even several key numbers, I suppose, based on how diverse this definition is. But I found it under insurance as an exclusion to coverage for when, as I understand it, that a ship owner or I guess the operator of a vessel disregards the direction of a ship owner. And so yeah, super interesting. It's a and I got so this is that's a patron. That was a patron, or was that an attorney patron, or
That was
is
an attorney patron, yeah.
Yeah.
Interested in whether it could be an affirmative defense in a particular jurisdiction. So I'm not sure what was going on, but I love these definitions because they're so archaic sounding. You know, what is barratry? A vexatious incitement to litigation. I just think a modern definition would not sound like that. It's a crime in most jurisdictions. And
Oh,
a person
really?
who is hired by a lawyer to solicit business is called a copper. No. Is that a capper? Yeah,
Oh,
capper.
I'm sorry. Where is
Yeah.
that?
That's just there at the end of that
Oh, a
first.
capper.
A
Oh my
capper.
gosh. All right. We're going to go down this
So
rabbit hole a little bit here, I think, because this is too exciting.
it's such weird stuff, but you know, this kind of thing goes on all the time, right? This attorney ethics is so difficult. Like, when are you just finding out about people's lives and potential litigation? And when are you finding a capper to help you engage in barratry conduct in front of the court, you know? But the other thing that surprised me about this definition, and this just speaks to my ignorance of linguistics, is here's this first definition. Then the second definition seems kind of related, right? The bringing of a lawsuit without the permission or consent of the named plaintiff. I also hear about that happening these days. Okay, that sounds related. Then the maritime one, what's that about? Fraudulent or grossly negligent conduct by a master or crew that is prejudicial to a ship owner. That's super specific. And then if you go beyond the long discussion of maritime law, you get to the buying or selling of ecclesiastical or government positions. See, also simony, there's another word I would not have known.
No.
And then the crime committed by a judge who accepts a bribe is called barratry. I just think it's interesting. Those definitions seem all over the map to me.
Here we have a citation to James Kent's commentaries on the law. That quote comes from an 1866 resource. I was looking for the Blackstone commentaries recently as well, and not on Westlaw. I had to do a Google search for that, which we can talk about later. But I want to just follow. I just want to follow this a little bit. Capper. I mean, I guess there has to be a showing that the claim would be utterly baseless. But I wonder if, you know, all of these agencies, or the marketers like Guy Tsakaloudis and Conrad Somm, understand they might be that their professional title might be capper.
Capper, yeah. It just sounds like, I don't know, 1920s thing.
Or a runner, slang, someone who acts as a lure for others.
Oh, as in a gambling. Oh, also termed a stool pigeon now. There's a term I know. Yeah. Yeah, the things you learn. So I guess there wasn't a real insightful legal research tip there, except, Mike, I can't believe you don't go to Black's for your initial definition of a term.
You know, I almost always use the words and phrases to get there first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops, I mean, I gotta move my picture. I almost always use words and phrases for that.
Sure.
But in this case, I mean, it's a good mention because barratry's got such a broad range of meanings. You know, if I just stuck, you know, and there are 29 results for barratry, which is not bad. Was it a Texas attorney, did you say? or was it Texas?
I think the jurisdiction was Texas.
Yeah, interesting,
So,
because
yeah.
this is a and it's under Champerty in this case also.
Sure, yes.
Interesting.
And then
Texas.
maintenance, it's Champerty and maintenance. So maintenance has this particular meaning as well in
Yeah.
attorney fee agreements or arrangements.
Here's the
Here's where you
maritime-
got into the maritime
this is the one that
insurance. Yeah,
I found, but it's a good it's a good reminder to check multiple sources. Yeah, I do get stuck in that rut of kind of coming up with a single strategy for finding that kind of thing. And so it's a good reminder. Bear Tree, here's the key number for Bear Tree under insurance, but it appears under others as well.
so I'll confess to my original search approach was not effective. I always want to understand things by reading Minnesota practice because I think it explains things so well. So
Yeah.
I looked up the definition of Champerty, then I tried to pull it up in Minnesota practice, and I went directly to Minnesota practice, and it was not really described there. There was one entry that was, I can't remember which volume it was in, like model something or other, and it was just a passing reference. So that really led me to the erroneous assumption that Champerty wasn't really a thing in Minnesota, because if it was, it would be discussed in
Yeah.
Minnesota practice.
Yeah.
Then I did some more research. I spent time in Texas, and then just out of idle curiosity, I came back and just ran the term through the Minnesota jurisdiction, covering everything, and it's all over the place. Cases and statutory references and so forth. So I need to maybe broaden my searching a little bit instead of just going to my favorite place and stopping.
Well, and
So
as you
what's that
say,
in today's lesson? Don't be like
these
me.
things have a shelf life. I mean, with the rules of professional conduct, covering those bases, it's it's more of a historical reference than
Right.
anything else. But also one of the challenges of research, we follow the citing references from the maybe the rules of professional conduct back as far as they go, and we're stuck, right? Or citing references or any other references related to the particular rule, and we don't necessarily go back prior to the foundation of
Yep.
The common law foundation of some of those rules. You have to make a leap sometimes. It's
Right,
interesting.
because this definitely, in all the definitions and descriptions, is described as this common law, concept. So you're right. When you jump from common law into statute or rules, sometimes there's a break in that lineage, and it's hard to track that.
And what did we learn? Is it an affirmative defense, even though, well, in this case,
It's not an affirmative defense. Although I don't know, in the case of the maritime insurance, maybe. Maybe
sure.
What sense are we using? Yeah, using it in.
Usually when you want to know whether or not it's a responsive, or if it's an affirmative defense, whether or not it should have been pled in a responsive pleading. Is that the idea there?
Yeah. I wouldn't have thought to add responsive pleading, but yeah, sure.
Or answer. I mean, I don't know what the.
So those two terms are being read as or, right? Affirmative defense or
Yeah,
responsive
that's
pleading.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Oops, that's not going to work. Let's give it a run. We can research live this morning.
No, look at this. 2 cases. Where are they from? Illinois and
and
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
Holy moly.
Well, what are we looking at here? I've got a memorandum. This is trial. This is trial court order.
Memorandum opinion in order. Yeah.
6th affirmative defense. The motion for judgment on the pleadings is to the 6th affirmative defense. Champerty, maintenance, and verity is granted.
Oh,
Interesting.
holy moly.
And then, just for the sake of thoroughness.
Yeah, let's see what happened in Minnesota. Oh,
Yeah.
no, you're going to look further in there?
No, sorry. I've got my Zoom viewer covering my.
Oh, yes. Yeah. All right, Target was involved.
Properly asserted their. Oh, Barrett. That's a.
Oh,
I
yeah,
miss it.
that's why. So it isn't Tree. I was surprised to see
I don't know.
Minnesota come up, but that's why. It's not about that.
I don't remember. The other reason to go back to Blacks is to see other versions, like Champertus, I think was referenced in Champerty.
And
Characters.
Veritas is also a
Is it okay? Yeah, I
term,
wasn't sure if it
you
made
know.
sense to
Yes,
include the root
absolutely.
expander there.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
That's an awesome. Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun, not entirely super complicated challenge there, but fun to
Right.
track down.
Yep. And fun to just be reminded that even when you think you know a lot, at least have sort of familiarity with a lot. Other things arise that apparently are not that uncommon that you've never heard of. So, but these terms, Mike, are quite old, as we were pointing out, in Blacks, they're saying 15th century, 16th century. And you
Yeah.
were looking into old materials this past week yourself, right?
Yeah. I was prepping this CLE for next week on there's a couple of slides I pulled out and pulled into a full CLE called the 3 Eras of Legal Research, and stretching myself a little bit here. I'm not a historian really, but have this framework for how we should be thinking about using, old research tools or new research tools, what tools in the light, in the era of ChatGPT, are we still using, the key number system or Black's dictionary or whatever, and so I have some slides on the history of legal research dating back to the advent of the common law, and began wondering if actually, can you even search the old plea rolls and yearbooks? When we went to we got to the University of Minnesota locally here has got some of these yearbooks on display.
Oh, they're beautiful.
And
Yeah.
yeah, they're cool. And I was wondering if it's possible to search those at all. And they have been digitized, not formally like with keyword searching, but they are available. There are images of these, and I pasted some of the links. I'm not going to launch into this in the CLE next week, but I did provide the links, and you can jump into both the University of Houston has got images of the plea rolls here, so you can
look
bring
at
them
that.
up. And I don't know, I wanted to ask you about your expertise on some of these things. The yearbooks are available from Boston University. This gentleman here, Dr. Stipe, maybe, has compiled a database of the yearbooks, I think, which is interesting. And the yearbooks, interestingly, have a very, the early case reporters have this very specific date period. We know that they've existed from 1290 to 1535 before we get into the more modern era of case reporting. But they have this tool here, and the CIPE number you can search by, which is interesting because I'm sure that's the name of the.
Oh yeah, that's the professor must have figured out his numbering system, and we're going to call it that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But and so, some of these things, and these are directing us not to the images even, but to the school's cataloging system. And often that's what you find is just access to the catalog, even when you get to the National Archives in the UK, where you can find images of the and let's see, I think some of these we might be able to grab some of the images It's kind of, I don't even know what I'm looking at here for some of these
Right.
things. Quite a bit of additional research to be done just to understand the difference between a patent and a close roll,
Right.
please. But a lot of these have been imaged, and you can jump into a few of these and
Oh,
find
yeah. Wow.
images of
Yep.
the actual plea roll. And then I found this from the National Archive. Now, this is an older website, actually. The National Archives website now looks like this, much more modern. And
Yeah.
this is these tutorials here have some flash in it, which you can't view, of course.
Oh, right.
But the cool thing is you can. This is paleography. They've got some tutorials here on how to read medieval handwriting.
That's great.
I know
That's
it's
great. Because you
and
find that stuff and you're just like,
what
whatever.
is it? So-
You can't tell what it is.
And what was interesting to me about these tutorials are 1 through 10, and they get progressively more difficult
Sure.
as you go through each of these tutorials. What's interesting is that document 1 is the easiest to read, but not the most recent.
Oh,
And of course, a lot of the text, the plea rolls are going to be in Latin or a language which has its own language tree. And again, I'm venturing into areas that are well beyond my expertise, but law French,
right.
which I had to Google, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's a separate language. It's not
Yep.
just a tone or a style. It's its own language, I guess.
Apparently, and it's also sometimes called Norman French, I think.
Oh,
Because
really?
here at Hennepin County, we have just a very small kind of special collections. And there's some indication that prior directors were really proud of the yearbooks in Norman French. So we have some, but of course, no one can read them.
Yeah.
No one that I know can
Yeah.
read them. So they just sit in a case looking old. But
That's
yeah.
awesome. So that's a resource I did not know the Hennepin County Law Library had. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
and they're not cataloged. They're sort of, it isn't a complete run of anything. But yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
that was the other thing. I'm like, this is like the beginning of the common law era. Are people jumping back and saying, wait a minute, actually in 1253, I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's an interesting topic. I'm sure it's possible to read about it in the US, of course, is that our common law is based on British common law. So like our little case of special collections is all Fleet Street publications, because no one was publishing in the US in the 1700s. And well, not no one, but there just wasn't a corpus of law available. So yeah.
I don't know
So,
if
boy, it even describes the buildings. The buildings are far from ideal for storing archives.
Yeah. Can you see the pop-up here when I pop up the
document? I don't think so.
What if I do that?
I'm not seeing anything change. Although it is, it's just that document. Huh.
Well, what I wanted to show there, I'm just sharing that the screen there, but what you get is when you pop open that screen, even though you can't run the tutorial because it's based in Flash, you can see an image of the full document, and then there's a tab where you can switch to the alphabet. So you can, because it's English, you can see what's represented by a capital and a lowercase a, B, C, D, etc.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then there's a transcript of the document, so you can test your reading of the document as well.
And that's all just those documents that are in the tutorials, right?
Yes.
This would be a job for AI, wouldn't it? To figure out how to read.
I wonder if it's trained on medieval.
Train it on some medieval texts and see what we can find out.
I wonder if I can read those images. I can't. I wonder if it's a. And then there's a glossary for each as well. So
Right.
in this
Because
case, a copper is not a person who solicits on behalf of an attorney.
exactly, I was going to say, as we know, the meanings change over time.
In
That's
this case, it's
cool.
a large tub used for cooking or laundry. But yeah, it's a kind of a cool resource there for folks who really want to go deep into history and look at some
Sure.
of the,
Yep.
if anyone who's got interested in maybe reading that medieval handwriting, there's a place for that in the National Archives, and I'll have to drop the links in. I found the UK website extremely difficult to search and find things.
Yep.
I ended up jumping into Google and because I had stumbled across them, like, how did I navigate here in the first place?
Yeah.
I found it very
My
cumbersome.
my experience with all kinds of archive collections is they're really difficult to search. But my experience has also been that archives librarians love it when you're using their collection and ask
Yeah.
them how to find stuff, because they know it and they've figured it out and it makes sense to them, and they can really help. Even here at Hennepin County Public Library, the special collections staff has digitized a ton of information. They have all these different collections. And I'm not in there enough. I don't know how you actually find something in there,
Yeah.
but I know, I mean, they're uniformly helpful when you call and say, what about this? And then they'll either tell you how to do it or pull the thing up for you. So
Very cool. Have you been asked ever for any? I mean, I don't know. I have been asked to find like legislative history from the Constitutional Congress,
oh wow.
but I had a attorney was extremely upset that Westlaw did not have legislative history. Like, no, you got to go to the National Archives. But I'm just wondering, maybe what we need to do is have some of the folks from the archives that and from your team talk about what's available, how do you find it, what's some common terminology, and why bother, right? I mean,
right. Well, and there's that archivist at the U of M Law School too.
Yeah.
And I would expect that there are some differences and some similarities. I know I've had press contact me, is there a photo of this lawyer that I'm writing about from, the 1920s? And we'll look around in periodicals we have, but then I'll reach out to special collections at the public library, and often they've already been in contact because the press knows to go there. And the same with the Minnesota Historical Society. They have really amazing stuff that goes, back to the beginning of the state and the territory. So yeah, talk about a rabbit hole. You can go pretty deep.
Yeah. I and it is, sometimes it is a rabbit hole. I mean, I'm not sure I had the most productive week.
Right.
I want when I say why bother, I don't mean I just want to be careful that, what is the practical purpose and
Right.
value, understanding the value of what the historical information is. And as I say, few of us are historians, and
right.
What are we using this material for? I did have a question this week. Somebody had asked me who had won the Liberty Bell Award, and I found, Karen, I think your library was a winner of the Liberty Bell Award a few years ago, weren't you?
It would have been a while. It would have been before my time. Ramsey County Library might have.
Maybe it was a state law library. All right, I'm gonna Google Live, which I don't love to do, but let's see. Liberty Bell Award, Minnesota, should bring up an RCBA. I didn't even know what the Liberty Bell Award was. I worked for the Bar Association, but these things were I guess strictly most often awarded by local bar associations.
Right. I think the Ramsey County Law Library may have won it a few years ago.
Well, was it the Ramsey County Bar Association? The Ramsey County Bar Association does have a list of who they
Yeah.
were. I was asked to find the Liberty Bell Award winner from Traverse City, Michigan, from 1964.
Wow.
The award was originally granted in Flint, Michigan, by the local bar association in 1962, and then later, the ABA gave it its imprimatur by saying, "Yeah, you can do that," which I don't. But it was an award granted by a bar association to a non-attorney, I guess,
Yep.
or to a non-attorney organization,
Yep.
or not a law firm. But here's the RCBA. Yeah, so
Yeah, past recipients, I'm gonna guess.
Liberty Bell Award winners. And I was looking for a website like this. I did a ton of Google searches using the Boolean natural language. I did not come up with it. It wasn't Hennepin County. I'm sorry.
It was
You're
Ramsey
right.
County.
It
That's
was the
all right.
Ramsey County Bar.
We hold the
Back in
Ramsey County Law
29
Library in high regard. They have a
19.
great law library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Liberty Bell Award winners. But yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna have to call somebody in Traverse City,
Yep.
see if they've got a record of that from
So
1962.
does the Hennepin County Bar award this award or just Ramsey County?
I only found it from Ramsey County.
Yeah.
At least any mention of it.
Sure.
I only used Google. I did not do a super deep dive. I spent more time on it than I should have probably. But again, going back to back in time on this one.
Yeah.
Felt like I was doing a lot of historic. I mean, 1960 doesn't feel that long ago to me, but
Well, but it is. That's a
Yeah.
while ago. Yeah.
the
That's
other
funny.
as I was messing around on this historical stuff, maybe you have thoughts on this too. I just did a global search on
yeah.
Westlaw for
Yep.
what does Westlaw have dating before the year 1700? And
They have
it's got
10
10
cases?
cases.
Okay.
These have key numbers on them, which is interesting because obviously the key number system didn't exist at that time, but they retroactively
Right.
apply the head notes to some of these older cases. And I have no idea, and I haven't read these cases, but I'm not sure how these were chosen to be included in
The rural province of
collection.
Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why are there two items in practical law?
Yeah, right. So that's I'm like, we got because I was looking for Blackstone originally, right? Or
sure.
some of these other
Yep.
older materials. I'm like, oh, look at all these
Secondary.
awesome
Yeah.
secondary sources. And I'm like, wait a minute.
That does not seem right.
That's not right. And I don't think it's a problem with the technology on the search end. These have not been properly indexed.
Right.
Not a huge deal, but
Right.
the Interstate Insurance Product Regulation Commission, whoever's product that is, they probably even Thomson Reuters is got limited resources.
Right.
I don't know if it makes sense to
go back
properly
Yeah.
do that work. And then I applied the filters on these as well, and you can say,
Sure.
there's this under 24 for the last
3 years.
3
Yeah.
years. Oh, that's obviously not right. And then when I did a date range restrictor from here, it also just redelivered the content
The
when I
same
applied
result.
the
Yeah.
date. So I mean, the indexing on the document is just
Right.
not there.
Something
So
funky happened. Yeah. When it came through.
maybe something to be aware of, I guess. And then practical law is very intentionally current content.
Right.
So we know that that's incorrect.
Yeah.
And again, here you can kind of see, well,
Sure.
probably, this is the year 18. That's, just the formatting of the date. And I'm guessing maybe even a typo on the document. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
But I mean, there's
Yep.
thousands of documents in practical. It's not surprising to see some
Right.
errors on a broad
Yeah.
search like that.
Yeah. That's such a huge surge for sure.
But the cases were fun too. Then my only question about the cases were, how did we
Why these?
decide that,
Marriage and cohabitation. Huh.
and then looking at these reporter titles, it's like, what is that one? Another rabbit hole. It's like, who's got a collection of this reporter before before the reporters that we're all familiar with came into being?
I'm guessing that's a nominative reporter, right?
What kind of reporter?
A nominative, the ones that are named after people, Hale
Yeah.
and Henry or something,
Yeah.
would probably be the name. Yeah. Named after like the court clerk or reporter who compiled it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna yes. There's I've got an interesting collection of historical legal research materials, and there's a little section there on nominative reporters, and I completely forgot about it. Yes,
Yep.
that is
Yeah,
that.
we used to run into that more, but
Did you?
as time marches on, yeah, because like those old states, Pennsylvania, New York, well, even Minnesota, we had nominative reporters for a
Really?
little while. Yeah, before Minnesota reports came into being. I can't remember their names anymore.
The names, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Super
I wish I
interesting.
could. I used to know them. Because then, we used to always do parallel sites. And so
Yeah.
you'd sometimes see the nominative reporter listed as a parallel site, but you just don't see that anymore.
All right. So for that purpose, let's see if I do what time we got a little time left here. We're gonna do another live research. We're gonna jump into Minnesota, and let's do just a date before. Oh gosh, what do you think is the?
See if we became a state in 1868. Like maybe try before. See if before 1900. Let's just see.
All right,
we're gonna get a list, but maybe.
And I'm gonna let's see. Well, let's see.
Oh boy, that's too big of a. Yeah, see, so Minnesota reports we were in volume 74. We might want to make our date a little earlier.
Minnesota. Oh yeah, the Northwest Reporter is still there.
Yeah, so maybe it should be like 1870. See what
there was be a way to bump down to those.
Right.
Now let's see. Let's do it before 1860.
Okay.
Plenty.
Oh, that's volume 1 of the Minnesota reports. Yeah, Gilfillan. That was one.
Gilfillan, really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There weren't a ton.
P-H-I-L-L-I-N. How do you spell Fillan?
Yeah, Gilfillan, I think.
I-L-L-A-N. I want an image.
Oh, see if we can find Gilfillan. Oh, it's all one word. That says, yeah.
Oh, Gilfillan. Gilfillan Estate.
Oh, an unincorporated community. Oh, here's some old. He must have been like a Minnesota, like judicial employee. Like, yeah. Oh, there he is. Oh no, that's not him. So now we're going to get reporters for public radio and.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't want to Google Live too much here, but
that's fun. Well, one of our many viewers, I'm sure, will dig deep into.
Yeah,
those
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I learned a lot from you today, Karen, and that is fantastic. We found the nominative reporters. I've never. I don't think I've ever been given a citation for Gilfillan, or I wouldn't have recognized what it was. I don't think. The state reporters for sure, but I wouldn't, recognize. I would recognize this as a very old case law citation, probably,
right.
But I couldn't. I wouldn't know the names of the reporters prior to
And I
Westlaw.
think, many, public Minnesota law libraries and the University of Minnesota still have these old ones in print. So now I'm going to walk out to the shelf,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
probably a quicker way just to see, are there other
Yeah.
names, or what did Minnesota just have Gilfillan? So
I just
I'll
want
let
to
you know.
see
I'll
the
do a little
spine.
follow-up. Yeah.
Gilfillan. Yeah, take a snap and send it to me, and I'll put it on the show notes.
Sounds good. All right.
All right.
It's a deal.
Anything cool coming up for you this week, Karen? We got I missed your CLE last week. Is it you got a recording of that somewhere?
Yep. That'll go up on the website. We didn't solicit on-demand credit for it, but it'll be available just to watch for general interest. Yep.
Yeah, cool. I wanted to check it out. I was I meant to go, and then I had work to do, unfortunately, so I couldn't make
Such a bummer how work gets in the way of things you want to do.
it. I know. Although this week,
Yeah. Maybe not so much.
the things I wanted to do kind of got in the way of the work I had to do. But yeah,
That's
it was
right.
totally fun.
That's great.
Anything? I'm sorry. You got anything happening you
Nope.
want to highlight
Don't
this
have
week?
anything. Nope. How about you?
Yeah, well, I've got the CLE next week. Super excited
right.
to do that.
Yep.
And still messing around with some of the new document automation tools that we mentioned. You gave me a tip on Anthropic last week from Dewey B.
Yeah, that was
Strategic,
from
Gino Grady's website.
Yeah, it was Gino
Yeah.
Grady's. Yeah.
I don't know
That
if you
was
saw
an
me.
interesting concept she had, was like all this iterative AI is super cool, but she was making the case that then what's going to be really necessary are librarians to be great at developing queries. And so that she was predicting like a query prompt specialist will be a new job title. And sure enough, Anthropic
There it is. Yeah.
posted I can't remember, what did they call the person?
I don't remember, but I jumped right in to test out the server. What was interesting was, speaking of dates, I've been testing the Rule 6.01 in Minnesota against all of the legal research platforms that I have access to, and none of them can accurately calculate the time period. If I cover 2 weeks, it always counts. It has the last day being a Sunday, and it's not right. It's not. It can't be a Sunday. It's got to be the following day.
Yep.
It has to be a weekday. And none of them can do that. And I guess that's really hard to do. Anthropic was the first to do it correctly. Really? I'm like, wow, that's very cool. And I don't know why dates especially are hard to calculate, but with the document automation tools that are coming out now, especially from NetDocuments has got a very cool tool that we're experimenting with. What we want to be able to do is to say, rather than me monitoring changes in the law and then updating these applications later, right? So if you've got a date calculation in your document template, in order for that to be up to date, we need to monitor changes in the law. So if the date time period changes, we can change it in the application. We have to manually do that in the just on the back end of the application. Well, with the automated or with the LLM tools, if we could just point it at a trusted resource like Westlaw, and if it's updated, then we get, hey, the time period is now different and the calculation should be X. So I don't have to go in each time and just edit the calculations, but we haven't been able to make it work except until recently with Anthropic. Seems to work. What's interesting is that the language was incorrect, right? So it says, it had great tone. It said, okay, let's walk through the process. Here's step one. Here's what the rule reads. So step two is very, very good. And then when it came to counting the weekend days, what it said it was doing is not the way it was actually calculating.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Which was interesting. It says we're going to skip.
Yeah,
we're going to skip these. Like, no, you count them, but you don't count that last weekend. Yeah. So, but it calculated it correctly. It still calculated it correctly. Yeah. So it was super interesting to work on that. So I'm excited to continue on that work this week. I might get some play on the new. It's funny. It's called After Pattern Max, which is like Sounds like a soda from the 80s
Yeah.
for some reason. To me. Like a branding goofiness
Yeah.
in my view. Like, yeah, they're really,
Right.
but the product looks pretty amazing because it does integrate these document automation tools with some LLM, which appears to work pretty well. So
Yeah, boy, there's no shortage of products out there. Everyone's, launching
no,
things and
going
trying
crazy.
things out. Yeah. So it's good we have you keeping an eye on it all.
Yeah, that's right. Me and everybody else on the planet.
Yeah,
All right,
really. Oh,
well,
wonderful.
perfect. Karen, thanks again.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great week.
Enjoy your weekend. Yeah, you too. Good
Thanks,
to
you
see you.
too. Yep.
Mhm.